top 10 research priorities have been published in The Lancet, and then also in a simultaneous review editorial in the BMJ. They involve perhaps questions that you would assume would come out, the sort of big questions like what is the cause of endometriosis, can we find a cure for endometriosis? But I think importantly for researchers, the big theme to come out is that women with endometriosis and healthcare professionals want a non-invasive diagnostic test. And then for patients, I think the other theme that's come out of the top 10 is they want a way of us identifying something, a treatment or a means of managing the emotional and physical impact of living with endometriosis. So not just about removing the lesions, removing the disease, but the sort of bigger picture, the emotional and physical impact.
Why does so much remain unknown about endometriosis?
I think one of the problems has been the lack of funding, so I think that's why it's very important to carry out exercises such as this, and so we hope that this will very much raise awareness of the condition. We can then take these research questions to funding bodies and push for focused funding in these areas, themed calls for grants. So if we can get the problem of funding together, then we can move forward. The other problem that we face with endometriosis is it's a very heterogeneous condition. No woman with endometriosis seems to behave in the same way. You can have a lot of disease within the pelvis and perhaps not so much in the way of symptoms, or you can have very little disease and very, very severe painful symptoms. So it's very difficult to understand in that respect. One of the areas that is really helping us understand endometriosis is the fact that it does behave like cancer, and I'm not saying it is a cancer, it's malignant or goes on to become cancer, but it has cancer-like appearances, behaves in a cancer-like way. So by looking at research approaches that have been used in cancer, we can then hopefully understand a bit more about endometriosis, the condition.
How does it behave like cancer?
So for the development of cancer, there are a number of steps. For example, cancer has to stick to wherever, to other cells, it has to invade, it has to form its own blood supply, and all of these steps occur in the development of endometriosis. So these are areas that we can learn a bit more about in terms, and then translate them into the endometriosis setting. There was also some very interesting work that's come out of the World Congress that has shown that endometriosis, deep disease, exhibits some of the cancer-like mutations. That again doesn't mean to say it becomes cancer, but it has some of these genetic changes similar to cancer. And in Edinburgh we've been doing work demonstrating that cells within the pelvic cavity from women with endometriosis have what we call a metabolic phenotype similar to cancer cells. So their metabolism is different, and there have been projects in cancer that have looked to try and change the metabolism of cancer cells to try and treat cancer, and we're trying to do the same for endometriosis in Edinburgh. Using chemotherapy perhaps in low doses for endometriosis could be a possibility. The problem with chemotherapy is patients who have cancer will suffer from, will tolerate quite high side effects, and obviously sadly aren't often taking a treatment for a long period of time. With endometriosis we have to find a treatment that has a low side effect profile that can be tolerated for a long period of time. And the other thing is we're dealing with young women, so it needs to be often something that could be taken whilst a woman is trying to conceive and get pregnant, so a non-teratogenic treatment. The James Lind Alliance process has been successfully used in other conditions outside of our specialty, for example for asthma and epilepsy. And what we've noted is that after these exercises, major funding bodies have picked some of these questions off the top 10 list, and they've put out themed calls. We've seen pharmaceutical companies picking some of these questions and also funding major grant initiatives in these areas. So I'm confident that the same is going to happen for endometriosis.